Yeah, the few moments that Wiesbaden had, Schallenberg had one or two good blocks on there. Kalash had like a goal line clearance at one point, or it was in front of the goalkeeper, but it was a good block nonetheless.
Yeah, he had several good blocks. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Multiple block shots. I think like 3 or 4 of them.
And because of such, Kalash makes the kicker best 11 of the week, team of the week, I should say, for his great performance. Looking at the whole defense here, certainly I think he's warranted for that. He has some big saves in the game. I thought he played pretty well. Like we said earlier, I think Kaminsky and Baumgartel played well. Not to discredit what they did, but I think Kalash certainly is showing to be the talisman from the defensive endpoint, at least, because he seems to have all these games where he is a standout defensive player in a good way. But when he's bad sometimes. But yeah, it's a great game today for him, or this weekend from him.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, total agreement.
All right. Let's get to some of the comments moving on to after this game. Wiesbaden not necessarily the scoring threat that our next opponent is, and we'll get to them in a second. Magdeburg coming up from this weekend. Karel Geraerts comment after the game, he says, it was a close game that could have gone either way. This also shown by a look at the numbers. We worked very hard to keep the 3 points. The difference in the end was the physicality. I can see that. I mean, there's several players I thought stepped up physically. Certainly the defenders, Schallenberg. Karaban did well to backtrack, I thought. The wingers did the part. I thought Oyan had a decent game, was involved in a lot of the set pieces. Obviously, he's going to be one of our main guys. And then, Brunner still, man, something off about him. I don't know what it is yet. But Geraerts continues. We did very well against the ball, but we have to be better with the ball. We talked about the final thirds have been atrocious. We can't link passes. He says, I hope the victory gives us self-confidence, which was missing after the previous results. We know about our situation. That's why the positive result today is very important, and look for the task ahead. So, what else?
Yeah, basically just I think his point overall is that, we're not playing well in possession, and there's things we have to work on in general, but it's also much harder to play well in possession when you're low on confidence. And so the best avenue towards results when you're low on confidence is just to try to outwork people. And so I think that's what he was looking for in this match against, Wiesbaden or whatever, was that physicality and that work rate. And that's what we at least did put in, and that saw us through. That was enough this time, but, need to improve for future matches.
Yeah, especially Magdeburg. Last time we played them, 4-3 was the scoreline and not 1-0. Travis, I see your question. We will get to that in a minute. Moving on to next topic is Sport 5 will take over sales. So delve more into this. Comes from Waz and probably Andreas Ernst. Says, what is colloquially referred to as the sale of the marketing rights of Schalke is not quite as drastic in detail. Sport 5 will take over sales as an external service provider and will have in the future have 10 employees from Schalke in the office. But no current Schalke employee loses their job, which is the big worry everyone had. Everyone receives a takeover offer. So what does Schalke get from this deal? In recent years, the number of Schalke employees in sales has fallen sharply. At the same time, finding sponsors has become much more difficult. Schalke believe that they can stabilize their income in the short term with the help of Sport 5 and over time even generate more than is currently possible from their own. For example, by increasing the number of staff in the department. Sport 5 is not allowed to conclude a sponsorship contract independently. They can prepare contracts through Tillman and Christina Ruhlhammer, who signed. The contract with Sport 5 is variable. They didn't say really exactly what the numbers were or if there's a signing fee. But Tillman will explain tomorrow, so we have to stay tuned for that. Any thoughts on Sport 5 coming in and trying to help us out financially?
Yeah, I always get a little bit nervous when you start talking about things like, selling your rights to marketing or selling your rights to whatever. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of, Chicago selling our parking revenue or street revenue to Saudi Arabia or whatever we did. Yeah. Because we're so broke here in Chicagoland. But I think with the explanation, I think the way they're trying to spin it, whether or not this is actually the case or not, but the way they're trying to pitch this is like, hey, we have a skeleton crew here, so we have way less staff to make a much more difficult pitch for sponsorship, and that combination of factors is not getting us to where we need to be. So yes, we are, loaning this out or whatever, kind of selling our marketing rights, but really it's going to be commission based. And we think even if we're paying out that commission, this change is going to bring us in more money than we're making on our own in the first place. So it's going to be a net positive. Yeah. Hopefully it works out that way. We'll have to wait and see. I'm definitely open to creative solutions. Given the situation we're in, it sounds like, I mean, everything we're hearing from the club recently is just that, like, there is no money to do anything with the squad.
Yeah.
And that's the situation you don't want to be in ultimately, is if you are trying to make a push to get back to the Bundesliga, there's things you're going to want to improve. And we're seeing right now that the current squad doesn't appear to be good enough to really affect things. We don't want to be locked into a situation where this level is kind of where we're at for a while. I mean, you know, it's tough. So, yeah, we'll see how it turns out, but I'm open to it.
Yeah, no, I am as well for those same reasons. I did my part. I renewed my Schalke membership and my children's membership this weekend, so we're helping a little bit. We don't give a little bit back money, some money, not much, but it's something there. Moving on to the last talking point and to Travis's question about the DFL investors. We talked about how I'm unsure with the DFL investors in terms of just in the German football as a whole, because we are caught between two things, right? Tradition, where we are one of the big traditional clubs and we want to keep everything 50+1 and keep the fans involved. However, our team is struggling mightily financially. Yes, there were some bad decisions that happened prior to the current leadership. However, I can't see it viably lasting a long time, I think. And I'm indifferent. I'm open to what that could mean. I don't want it to be ruined like it is ruining some other clubs. What are your thoughts before I get into Schalke's response today?
Yeah, no, I unfortunately haven't had time to look into this nearly as much. So I'm open to. I haven't even seen what Schalke responded to it yet, but I understand why the eyebrows are raised and the alarm bells are ringing at the moment with this one.
Yeah, so Schalke finally made their comments today after the recent voting, and Schalke said their statement about possible new vote regarding the investor deal said Schalke is open to a new vote. The quote is, the developments of the past weeks raised questions that have not yet been answered. That is why Schalke is open to a new vote on the decision on a possible strategic partnership. Schalke has transparently communicated its position and voting behavior to its members and fans of the DFL's search for a strategic partner. In both votes in May and December, the association explained its decisions in detail. However, the overall process lacks this transparency and clarity. It is important to emphasize that nothing has changed in the basic attitude of the club's management to welcome the entry of a strategic partner in the current framework. The reasons were explained in detail in the message from December 8th. We all got that in our emails. The expectation of Schalke is the entry of a strategic partner can bring dynamism to the necessary reform process within DFL. The clubs of strong fans, rich in tradition, and therefore attractive must be given more weight within the league association. It goes on and on and on about the distribution of television money needs to be one aspect. Being innovative is, I think, a big thing that Schalke is pushing for. And also the structural disadvantage of clubs with strong fans must end so that Bundesliga does not lose any further to its attractiveness. So a lot of words here saying that Schalke is basically open to it with more transparency, more clarity. They can make a true decision on what they want to do with this. Thoughts on Schalke's comments here?
It seems pretty non-committal for the time being. So it seems like a pretty... Yeah, it seems like a pretty safe position to express, but you're not going to necessarily ruffle any feathers with the fan base because you're not expressing a strong opinion one other way, with also not necessarily rejecting it wholeheartedly. So leaves a lot of room for them to do whatever they ultimately want to do in the future here.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully they do take, the club's best interests in heart, because obviously we've gone through some struggles here over the last many years, and being in this fight the league, it doesn't help us financially as well. And I think it's in best case scenario, we stay in this fight the league again one more year. Obviously there's a worst case scenario which we are trying to avoid, and the 3 points helps put us away from that. But yeah, let's see what happens there. And they're very non-committal, and you should be at this point where your team is on the precipice of being really poor for the money standpoint. So yeah. I want a time every now and then we like to check in on old friends. Those who have been the fans of the show for a long time, you'll recognize the T-shirt here. It's a free Katuchu. So Jack, what's our friend been up to in Turkey?
I mean, I thought you were gonna bring up Franco De Santos, so thank God for that. But no, had to shout out our boy who, despite playing in the second division in Turkey, not the top league in Turkey. We're talking second division, but currently I think 13 goals, 4 assists through 19 matches.
Leads the league.
Yeah, with his teammate for league leaders here. So it could be the general play of the club has something to do with that because they're in first place in the table, and he has a partner there in Gianni Bruno, who's also kind of equaling that tally. But anyway, the point being, Mr. Katuchu topping the goal scoring tables. Would like to have him in the second division in Germany right now, man. That's all I can say. What a player.
He has been freed. Unfortunately, just not with us. It's over in Turkey, the second division of Turkey there. But yeah, what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? But good for him. I'm glad to hear he's doing well. And obviously, his team that he's playing with right now is doing well. But we have other fish to fry coming up this weekend.